holds the most grudges on your show?
Male.
Who's second?
Ooh, second. Tisha? I say Tisha, but she don't be wanting to be. You know what I'm saying? But
I think Tisha.
She's sweet, but she don't.
She's very sweet.
Yeah, but she be trying to be mean. So
not trying.
Something happened on the set of Love and Marriage Huntsville that nobody was prepared for. And when I say nobody, I mean not the cast, not the producers, and definitely not the fans watching from home. Because reality TV drama is one thing. Raised voices, shade, arguments, that's normal for this show. But what happened between Stormi Steele and Latisha Scott crossed a line that turned a regular filming day into a full-blown emergency. It started as another tense meeting between two women who had been quietly building resentment toward each other for months. People thought it would just be another heated conversation, maybe some harsh words, maybe a little social media fallout afterward. But what nobody expected was for Stormi to end up fighting for her health by the end of it. Witnesses say the moment everything snapped was sudden. One minute they were arguing, the next minute things turned physical. Security rushed in and cameras kept rolling while chaos erupted in the room. And then came the moment that shocked everyone.
Pick it up, there's a lot going on, but now that I got it, I feel like basically what happened was Moses was cheating on Destiny apparently. That may or may not be the reason why they separated. Sonny came along at that time and was talking to him, and he was talking to another woman, and she was cool with that. And some kind of way he stopped talking to the other woman, and then within 90 days he got married. Like,
that's a 90 days again.
It's a lot. And then so I do agree with Destiny. Like, what that say about you? Like, you just cool. Like, why would you do all that waiting for this?
Stormi collapsed. Producers reportedly rushed to call emergency medical help as panic spread across the set. Some people thought she was having a panic attack, others feared something much worse. By the time paramedics arrived, Stormi was barely responding. And now fans are asking the same question. How did a simple conversation turn into a medical crisis caught on camera? To understand why things exploded the way they did, we have to go back a little, because the tension between Stormi and Latisha didn't appear overnight. Stormi Steele came into the world of Love and Marriage Huntsville as a confident businesswoman with a strong personality. She built her brand, spoke her mind, and didn't seem interested in playing politics with the rest of the cast. That confidence made some fans love her immediately, but it also made her a target. From the start, Stormi had complicated relationships with several people on the show. Conversations often turned tense, alliances shifted, and the group dynamic became increasingly fragile. And right in the middle of all that tension was Latisha Scott. Latisha had already built a reputation on the show as someone deeply protective of her marriage and her family.
Like, this is crazy. Like, people are really offering you money to come on this show and lie. So at that point, I was like, forget it. It's a lie. Like, now I don't believe it.
Her relationship with her husband, Marcel Scott, had been under the microscope for years. Rumors, accusations, and speculation about their marriage constantly followed them around. So whenever those rumors came up, Latisha didn't take it lightly. To her, it wasn't just gossip. It felt like an attack on her home. Meanwhile, Stormi had developed a reputation for saying exactly what she was thinking, even when it made people uncomfortable. She wasn't known for sugarcoating things or backing down from difficult conversations, and that personality clash was bound to explode sooner or later. Over time, small disagreements between the two women started piling up. Social media posts were interpreted as shade, comments during group gatherings turned into arguments, friends started picking sides.
What began as simple tension slowly turned into a Cold War. People on the cast could feel it. Producers could see it. Fans watching at home could definitely sense it.
Behind the Love and Marriage Huntsville page. No, okay, I'll say this. Nobody beat me up today. I ain't got beat up by a goddamn person. I'm gonna say that. Not a hand, not a nothing. Sorry, folks like to lie. Not a touch. Okay? Yeah.
They've thrown shade at each other before.
Still, nobody expected things to spiral the way they eventually did, because the meeting that led to the incident was supposed to do the opposite. It was supposed to calm things down. According to people who were there, producers arranged a sit-down conversation between Stormi and Latisha in hopes that they could clear the air and finally move forward. The setup was simple, just a quiet location, a few cameras, and the two women sitting face to face. At first, the conversation actually seemed calm. They talked about misunderstandings, past arguments, and the tension that had been building between them.
You have to have people around you who have a similar mindset. Be okay with cutting off people who don't.
Both women appeared guarded but willing to speak. For a moment, it looked like things might actually end peacefully. But then the conversation shifted, and that's when everything started going downhill. During the discussion, the topic of rumors surrounding Marcel Scott came up again. Anyone who has followed the show knows those rumors have been floating around for years. Allegations of cheating, whispers about secret relationships, stories that have never fully gone away. When Stormi mentioned that people were still talking about it, Latisha's entire mood changed. Witnesses say you could almost feel the temperature in the room drop. Latisha's voice became sharper, her posture stiffened, and the conversation quickly turned from tense to explosive. Stormi tried to explain that she wasn't trying to attack Latisha's marriage. She claimed she was simply repeating what people had been saying publicly. But by that point, Latisha wasn't hearing any of it. To her, it sounded like another woman questioning her husband and humiliating her on camera. And that was the moment things snapped. Voices got louder, hands started pointing, accusations flew back and forth. Crew members reportedly looked at each other, unsure whether to intervene or let the moment play out. Then suddenly, Latisha stood up. What happened next happened so fast that several people on set say they barely processed it. The argument turned physical.
Chairs moved, objects shifted, security rushed in as the two women moved toward each other in the middle of the heated confrontation. Cameras were still rolling when producers finally shouted for the scene to stop, but by then, the damage had already been done. Stormi appeared shaken and overwhelmed by the chaos. People said she started breathing heavily and looked like she was struggling to calm down. At first, some thought she was simply emotional after the fight, but within minutes, it became clear that something was seriously wrong. Stormi's body started shaking, she became disoriented, and then she collapsed. The room instantly went from loud to terrified. Crew members rushed toward her while someone called for medical help. Others tried to clear space so she could breathe. Witnesses say Stormi looked pale and unresponsive. It wasn't just stress anymore. It had turned into a medical emergency. Paramedics arrived quickly and began treating her on the scene. Oxygen was reportedly administered while producers scrambled to shut down filming. Eventually, Stormi was transported to the hospital for further treatment, and that's when the situation became even more serious. Doctors later explained that Stormi had suffered an acute stress reaction, a severe physical response to overwhelming emotional trauma. Her nervous system had essentially gone into overload. Her body couldn't handle the shock. She reportedly had to remain under observation while doctors worked to stabilize her breathing and heart rate. For the cast and crew who witnessed the moment, the shock lingered long after the camera stopped rolling. Reality TV thrives on drama, but this wasn't entertainment anymore. This was real life, and behind the scenes, emotions were running high. Stormi's husband, Courtney Beasley, was reportedly furious when he heard what happened. According to sources close to the situation, he demanded answers from production about how the confrontation was allowed to escalate so quickly. From his perspective, the environment should have been controlled before things reached that point. Meanwhile, producers were suddenly dealing with a much bigger issue than just editing an episode. They had to review every second of the footage. Questions immediately started coming up. Did the fight go too far? Did production intervene quickly enough? Should the footage even be aired? Because showing a moment where someone ends up hospitalized isn't just dramatic television, it raises serious legal and ethical concerns. Then, just when the story seemed intense enough, another twist happened that nobody saw coming. Melody Holt showed up at the hospital. Now, fans know that Melody and Stormi haven't always had the smoothest relationship either. The two women have had disagreements and subtle tension in the past. So when Melody quietly arrived to check on Stormi, it caught a lot of people off guard. There were no cameras there, no social media posts, no announcements, just a visit. According to people who were present, Melody spent time sitting with Stormi and talking with her while she recovered. It was a moment of unexpected compassion in the middle of all the chaos, and it reminded everyone watching that beneath all the drama and arguments, these are still real people dealing with real emotions.
Meanwhile, Latisha has remained almost completely silent since the incident. No detailed explanation, no public apology, just a noticeable absence from the conversation. That silence has only made fans more curious about what really happened behind the scenes. Some viewers believe Stormi crossed a line by bringing up rumors about Marçal during the conversation. Others feel Latisha allowed her emotions to spiral out of control. And then there are those who believe the real problem isn't either woman, but the pressure cooker environment of reality television itself. Because when cameras, emotions, and unresolved tension all collide at the same time, things can explode in ways nobody expects. For Stormi, the emotional impact of that moment may last far longer than the headlines. Being rushed to the hospital after a confrontation like that isn't something you simply brush off the next day. Sources say she was deeply shaken by the experience. Friends close to her say the physical reaction scared her, especially because it happened so suddenly. One minute she was arguing, the next minute she was surrounded by doctors and medical equipment. Moments like that can change how a person sees everything. It can make them question whether the drama, the cameras, and the constant conflict are really worth it. And for her family, it was terrifying. Courtney reportedly stayed close during her recovery, making sure she was stable and supported. Because at the end of the day, television may create the moment, but the consequences are very real. Careers can be affected, friendships can break, reputations can shift overnight, and sometimes people get hurt in ways nobody expected. Now fans are waiting to see what happens next. Will the footage ever air? Will Latisha address the incident directly? Will Stormi return to filming after such a frightening experience? Those questions are still hanging in the air, but one thing is already clear. What happened that day changed the atmosphere around the show. The drama that once felt entertaining suddenly feels much more serious when someone ends up in a hospital bed. And it reminds everyone watching that reality TV may look like entertainment on the surface, but underneath the lights and cameras are real lives, real emotions, and real consequences. Sometimes a single moment can expose just how fragile that balance really is. And right now, fans everywhere are watching closely, waiting to see whether this shocking confrontation becomes the moment that changes everything for the cast of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Because if there's one thing viewers know by now, this story is far from over.